What's happening, guys? William Craddock, WillToWinGaming. I'm here doing my best Keck Filet cosplay, and we're going to be talking about the general weaknesses of each color in the One Piece card game and how to exploit them for tournament. So this isn't specific to any one deck. We're just going to talk about, red, yellow, maybe touch on blue. I'm not sure if I want to give that information away just yet. And then how to exploit each color to come away with the win. But before I do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about our Patreon. I said I have an announcement regarding our Patreon today. And that announcement is we are going to be doing monthly giveaways to our Patreon. So if you are an active member of our Patreon, every month you're automatically entered a drawing for a monthly giveaway. For example, August, I'm going to be giving away a box of Pillars of Strength. So at the start of August, if you're active, your name goes to a drawing. The winner gets a box of Pillars of Strength. Next month, we're looking to getting TCG player gift cards. So we'll probably do around $50 gift cards every month to a random patron. That way you can buy, if you're looking to buy AAs, if you're looking to buy just maybe a whole kid deck, which is probably under $50, or maybe just you need that last Jinbei or Barto. We're going to be doing that. And that's any tier Patreon is eligible for this, so it doesn't matter if you're $5 a month, $100 a month. As long as you're an active patron, you'll automatically be entered this drawing every single month. But let's get into it. So first, I'm going to talk about the one everyone wants to hear about, red. Red has always been kind of the boogeyman. Every format, people are like, Zoro's too good, red's too good. Yeah, red is very good. But let's look at what makes red tick. So to me, One Piece is a huge exchange of resources. Every time, you make an exchange, whether it's a Dawn for an extra card or a character for a life, there's just a lot of exchanges going on. And Red's power comes from things like Curly Dedan, Buggy, Izo, because you're essentially replacing a card, right? You play Curly Dedan, you're getting a card that replaces itself. So even if they kill it with their leader swing, they're exchanging their leader swing for your 2 Dawn invested in Curly Dedan, but they're not getting an extra card because it replaced itself. Now here's where people generally falter against red. And I've done a few coaching sessions the last few days that kind of confirm my suspicions and talking to people about this. Most people get extremely worried against red when they fall to 3 life or less. And this is where the wheels generally fall off, because I feel like most Zoro strategy, linear, it's usually the same. It's like play a Curly Dedan, play a Haruta, put a Dawn under my leader, attack for 5, play a Zoro, attack for 6. And that's fine. That's a good strategy. Don't get me wrong. Now, where people tend to fall off is they'll take the first 2 hits, and then when Zoro starts coming in for 7, they're going to end up giving away 2 cards per 7k hit, giving Zoro this extreme advantage in exchanging of resources because he only had to put 2 Dawn to get 2 cards out of your hand, and he's still able to develop his board. My counterplay to this, and this takes a little time to get used to, is twofold. You can either use your 1Ks early and kind of balance taking those chip shots early versus you're going to take those 7Ks later, or you can just keep eating those 7Ks all the way down to 1 life. And the reason you can do this is Zoro is very, like I said, linear in nature. You typically know if they can kill you or not. And 1 life, in my experience, is extremely safe against Zoro because then you have, or you should have, board advantage at this point because you've been going after their board, and you should have a few more cards. You may not have a huge grip while they have none just because of the nature of the Zoro deck, but you should have hand advantage as well. And this would allow you to navigate a game plan that can now beat red, because once Zoro more or less blows his load, in the end game, they're still just putting out 2Ks, 2Ks, 3Ks. And these are very Dawn inefficient in the late game because he's having to commit 3 Dawn just to be able to put a 1k swing against with something like an ISO. And if you have, 10, 12 cards in hand, easy, pitch a 1k. And this is generally where a weakness of red. I do like a lot of Zoro players who switch gears when this happens. I see a lot of Zoro players get to a point where that game state looks like that, and then they themselves shift to board control, which I like that a lot because you can generally get more cards out of your opponent attacking their board than their life. It's kind of weird to think about because, like, if they attack your leader for 9, you're probably going to take it and just go to 0 life. But if they attack one of your important characters, let's say it's a 7k for 9 or even 11, they're probably going to use 2 to 3 cards to keep it alive because they have to. Because if they lose board, then you are playing Red's game where they're generating more cards than you, and you're going to die. So to me, that's really the weakness of Red is its late game is taken away without the Edward Newgates. It still has some staying power. If you're playing Marco with the events, like this is still just incredibly good. It's a very sticky threat. You have the rushers. You have the Makino, Magra finishers on your 1-drops. Red can still do a lot. It still generates a ton of card advantage. But for the most part, its weakness is going to be it has no end game other than go wide, and that's something that's very easy to play around. All right. But we can't pick at that one. Let's look at Big Lucci. This is a team favorite. We love this deck. I changed mine a little bit. I cut brand new. I was tired of messing with brand new because I'd be like, brand new, 2 big Kuzans and another brand new. Okay, I lose the game. But that's not here nor there. How do we beat black? So black's strongest asset is giving up card advantage for board advantage in the form of Sakazuki, Kobe, Isho, a little different, probably not Isho. Garp's a good example. And then backing up with blockers that can't be destroyed like Fukuro and Borsellino. So black's big problem is a lot of its stronger cards are not counters. So you see Isho, powerful, no counter, no counter, no counter, no counter. This is a little bit mitigated because things like Sakazuki and Kobe and Garp, you can discard cards that are superfluous. Like if I had 3 Ishos in hand, I can Sakazuki, dump an Isho, and now I'm executing my game plan and dumping a card that wasn't terribly useful. The way you expose black, in my opinion, is you take advantage of their inability to play threats without using a ton of Dawn. Black has nothing like Rush Zoro. Black has nothing like even the 5-cost Marco. All their threats, like their real threats, are 6 and above. I'm going to say like Sakazuki, Isho, and Kuzan. So you can really exploit that by going hard in the early game. And then late game, you're forcing them to not only give up, say, their blockers from large attacks, they're going to have to give up their tempo because if they have to leave up shockwaves because they're so low on life, they might not necessarily be able to develop a board that they want to. Other than that, black's biggest weakness to me is just sometimes it's clunky. Sometimes you just don't draw the right half of your deck. I think our build in particular has fixed most of that issue because we've made it so that you have curve going first and second, and that's really helped a ton. But for the most part, being clunky and being slow are kind of black's weaknesses. So when you play against it, the only finisher that you really need to worry about is, well, I'm on 1 life. He can Rob Lucci attack for, 12, Kobe something attack for 12, which costs him 4 cards, mind you. So this is very easily like something you can play around. This changes if they're playing the CP9 hybrid, which I don't like anymore, and they can, Kaku something, but like they swing for 10 with Rob Lucci and you have something that costs 3 or less. Their entire plan is to swing 10-10 and Kaku something. This is actually another weakness because now you can bait attacks. You take that first 10 and they're probably going to have to go for a game. If you counter on the second one, they're just dead because they used all their Dawn. Like it's a very Dawn-hungry deck. They use 2 cards, so that's 2 cards that can't counter anymore. And they're probably just defenseless. I don't think I've seen a point where Lucci has gone for a game like that where I countered out and they weren't just dead. But yeah, overall, that's Black's weakness. The hybrid versions are clunky. The deck is very heavy and it's very resource hungry. All right, let's go to Law. Everyone's favorite deck, Red-Green Law. This is my version. This is just a concession to what I think is going to be good going forward. I think even if it's not good, there's going to be a ton of Zoro and a ton of Law. Like, even if let's just say the decks got nerfed into the ground, they're not good, people are still going to play them. There's format memory. People love Zoro. People love Law. And a lot of people just don't want to switch decks. Like, honestly. So, but anyway, they're going to be good going forward. That's not a problem. This is just my concession. Having the Vistas over the Nico Robins, because it's abusable with Trafalgar Law, and I find Nico Robins just gets blown up, like, immediately, because it has to. But let's talk about Law's weakness. I have spent a long time, since OP-1, finding ways to exploit Law decks. My biggest takeaway is Law is the sum of its parts, right? Realistically, Law has 4 threats. I mean, this is Law's threats right here. This is the entire deck, and it really hinges on being able to search with Bonnie, and that's it. This is fine. You can get couple hits in with, this Law and Zoro. But realistically, this is the engine that makes Law go. And if you can isolate their board, meaning you just make sure they can't shambles early, they have no pressure for you. Now, this kind of really changes deck to deck, because I know me, the decks I play, I never attack Law's life. And this can really hinder them simply because they're used to having those extra 2 cards out of life, because those first 2 hits, Law never blocks, right? They always take those first 2 hits no matter what. And it can really hinder them if a key piece is in those first 2 life. So I generally choose not to attack Law's life. But that's the decks I play. If you're playing Zoro, it's a little different. But for the most part, Law's biggest weakness, to sum it up, is that it is... I forget the word. I have a good word for this. My wife taught it to me. But it's the sum of its parts, right? That is what Law is, and if you can just pick those parts off one at a time, it's pretty easy to beat. And even if you just kill one blocker Law, if they don't have another one, usually the deck just folds. Now, if they draw 2, which, they have a lot of search, again, they have Bonnie, and they can reuse Bonnie, you're in a lot of trouble. Law is extremely powerful when it gets to do its thing. But if you can keep Law from doing its thing, which a lot of decks have tools to do nowadays, Lucci has all the removal. Red, if you want to play the Fire Fist version, you Fire Fist, you have Marco. Like, just don't try to rush it against Law, and I think you'll be fine. I think that's where a lot of people falter, is they see, leader with 4 life, very powerful, gotta go fast. But you can play a long, slow game with Law more than you realize. It's just about recognizing the situation when I have to go for their life, if I have to go for their life, or should I be going for their key pieces like the blocker Law if he left it exposed. So that's in a nutshell. I like to starve Law out. That's my personal playstyle against it. I don't play Zoro, though. I don't know what y'all do against Law. Maybe someone can comment. But, yeah, that's it for Law. I think Law is very strong, but against when it's like high-level Law versus high-level other player, I think it generally favors the other player, depending what they're on, of course. But for most matchups, I think it favors the other player, because Law can easily fall apart without those insane draws. But it's a good deck. Don't get me wrong. Ooh, not clicking out. All right. Let's go with Casino Curry, Katakuri. This is my build of Katakuri. I really lean into the trigger version. I've seen a lot of people cut, down to 1 or 2 smoothies, if at all. Some people are cutting this Charlotte Lin. I like having Curve going first or second, but that's neither here nor there. So let's look at the weakness of Katakuri. The overall weakness of this deck is its characters suck. I know it's kind of weird to say, but if you just like this card in a vacuum, insane, right? This card's nuts. But if you look at everything else, nothing is really that threatening in the Katakuri deck. It's this and this leader and his ability to attack for 7 for 1 Dawn. So you can have very efficient turns, and you can get extremely, I'm not going to say lucky, because you have a lot of these, but if you're hitting your triggers out of life, boom, like, you're just getting free characters in play for the cost of a card. The tempo is insane. So the weaknesses of yellow is you can easily, if you choose to play this way, you can easily leave their board. Their board is not threatening without committing a lot of resources. So if they hit an early cracker and they're hitting your life for 5 or even 7, just take it. Like, you can just take these hits because their board is not threatening. When they get to the end game, and all y'all Katakuris play the same. They're going to try to go attack you down to 1 life, play Charlotte Lin, pass, and then try to kill you the next turn. I mean, I'm not saying this is like a bad thing, but the easy way to exploit this is take all the damage. Have all the cards. Give less value to Charlotte Lin. I've played a ton of Katakuris where I played this way, and on their turn 10, instead of playing 10-drop Big Mom, they're like, I'll attack you for 16, and they just lose. Like, because you have so many cards in hand, and I generally will leave up an event on that turn. But they love, like, people love to attack for big attacks. You have no life or no blockers. I don't know why. But my big tip for Katakuri is just exploit the fact they don't have good characters. Like, I even take the play a lot against Katakuri. I know a lot of people like to take the play away from them. And that's why my version of Katakuri is playing things like 7-drop Big Mom. Because a lot of people are going to choose to be on the draw, and you still want to have a curve to go for. But the way to expose it is their characters suck. I mean, the average game I play against this deck, they're like, Sanji for 2. And they're like, attack for 5, attack for 7. I'm like, well, I'm cleaning up your Sanji for free because it's a 3K. My leader takes it for free. I took 2 damage, but now you have no board. And I developed a threat. And that's realistically how I beat yellow when I do beat it. Not to say this deck sucks. I think yellow is very strong. I call it the yellow Zoro. Because if they do hit Cracker out of life, Charlotte Smoothie out of life, or a Timely Brulee out of life, and then curve that into like a Charlotte Katakuri and a Big Mom, yeah, you're probably dead. Like, there's no way around that. They also have Thunderbolt, which is underutilized in my opinion. If you're a yellow player, I think you should be playing 4 of these, because even just playing it for 2, like, F that life. Just kill something. Tempo. This is a tempo deck, guys. I know you have a late game, but this is your bread and butter. This is just a happy finisher, but this is your bread and butter. But I think that's it. I think I went over all what I think will be popular. This is just my ace build. Red in general, nothing fancy. But yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope it's helpful to some of y'all. I know you usually like to see gameplay, but I want to talk about how to exploit each color going to the regionals this weekend. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in chat. A lot of people will be asking who's Keck Filet. But yeah, this is basically his shirt. I want to look like him for this video. And don't forget, check out our Patreon. $5 a month, you're going to be entered into a monthly giveaway. August, box of Pillars and Strength. After that, we're going to be giving away $50 gift cards to TCG Player. And of course, when the next set comes out, we're going to give away boxes of that. I think it's called Kingdoms of Intrigue. So we'll probably give away a box every month for the first 3 months when that comes out. And $5 a month to enter the raffle. That's all you got to do. So yeah, I'll have information on our Patreon below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see y'all next time. Have a good one.